Anti-fascist group had lobbied for the removal of the tombstone. In 2011, a vase bearing the word unforgettable with the two S's marked in the style of SS was left at the site. The Upper Austrian Network Against Fascism pressure group said the removal was a welcome success. The network's Robert Ater said a lot of flowers and wreaths were deposited there from the people who clearly were admirers. It had to do with the son and not with the parents. Annan demands Syrian government begin ceasefire now. The UN and Arab League envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, expects the government to implement his peace plan immediately. Mr. Annan's spokesman Ahmed Fawzi told reporters the deadline is now. The peace plan, which the government accepted on Tuesday, calls for a UN-supervised cessation of armed violence in all its forms by all parties. But activists say government forces have been shelling the central city of Homs and fighting armed rebels in the eastern province of Deir al-Azur. 5 people were killed in clashes erupted in the town of Kuria, not far from the border with Iraq, when troops opened fire on a protest, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Earlier, 2 people were reportedly killed by government snipers in Homs and the city of Idlib, and 2 others were shot dead as they drove through a rural part of Homs province. The local coordination committee and activist network said 37 people had been killed nationwide, including 4 children and 2 women. Gesture of good faith, Mr. Fazvi said there are clearly not been a cessation of hostilities on ground in Syria the week despite the government's acceptance of Mr. Annan's peace plan, which has the backing of UN Security Council. This is of great concern, he told a news conference in Geneva. We expect President Bashar al-Assad to implement this plan immediately. Bin Laden fathered 4 children while on the run. Osama bin Laden fathered 4 children while on the run. The wife who bore them has told Pakistani officials. Amal Abdul Fattah from Yemen was bin Laden's youngest wife. She was arrested after the US raid on his compound near the Pakistani capital in 2011. She said 2 of her children were delivered in state hospitals, but she stayed there just 2 or 3 hours. Bin Laden, 54, orchestrated the 9/11 attacks on New York and Washington, in which nearly 3,000 people died. He evaded the forces of the US and its allies for almost a decade, despite a $25 million bounty on his head. Family scattered. According to a report of the interrogation carried out by Pakistani investigators, Mr. Abdul Fattah, who came from a family with 17 children, married bin Laden because she had a desire to marry a mujahideen, or a holy warrior. Along with 3 other wives found living at the residence, she was charged with entering and living illegally in the country. The report recommended that 30-year-old and her children be immediately deported. However, a lawyer for the 3 widows has said that they would be formally charged for illegally staying in Pakistan, a charge that carried a maximum prison term of 5 years on 2nd April. Her accountant says she flew to Pakistan in 2000 and traveled to Afghanistan, where she married bin Laden before the 11 September 2001 attacks. The family was subsequently scattered, she told investigators, and she traveled to Karachi in Pakistan, later meeting with bin Laden in Peshawar, and then moving to the Swat Valley, where they lived together in separate houses. They moved once again before settling in Abbottabad in 2005. During the hunt for him, most US and Pakistani officials believed he was hiding somewhere along the remote Afghanistan-Pakistan border, possibly in a cave. We'll move on to the business world.
Record Mega Million jackpot tops $640 million. Lottery fever has swept the US hours before the draws for the $640 million Mega Million prize, thought to be the biggest jackpot in the world history. Queues have been snacking out of the shops from coast to coast, with some punters snapping up tickets by the bushel. The prize has been smelling since 24th January, with no winner matching all 5 numbers in the last 18 draws. 42 states are in the big draw, which takes place in Atlanta, Georgia at 23:00 GMT. The prize had stood at $540 million before Friday's announcement. A jackpot winner could choose between receiving the full amount of $640 million in 26 annual payments, that is more than $24 million a year, or an instant cash option of more than $460 million. The largest jackpot to be paid out until now was at $319 million Mega Million prize that was split between 2 winners in 2007. One hopeful ticket buyer, All Saints Mercury, a 64-year-old taxi driver in Washington, D.C., told the BBC that if he won, he will drive his vehicle to one of the capital's busiest intersections and leave it behind to be towed away.
Welcome to the world of science.
Neutron faster than light, scientists resign. The head of the experiment that appeared to show subatomic particle traveling faster than the speed of light has resigned from his post. Professor Antonio Eritiado oversaw results that appeared to challenge Einstein's theory that nothing could travel faster than the speed of light. The report said some members of his group called Opera had wanted him to resign. And early in March, a repeat experiment found that the particles known as neutron did not exceed the light speed. When the results from the Opera group at Gran Sansco Underground Laboratory in Italy were first published last year, they shocked the world, threatening to upend a century of physics as well as relativity theory, which hold the speed of light to be the universe's absolute speed limit. The experiment involved measuring the time it took for neutron to travel the 730 kilometers, that is 450 miles, from CERN laboratory in Geneva, Switzerland to the lab in Italy.
And in sports,
Sharapova struggle in Miami finals. Maria Sharapova will bid for her first title of the season after claiming roller coaster victory over Carolina Wysocki. That is 4-6, 6-2, 6-4 on Thursday for a place in final of the Miami Masters. Sharapova has placed into her 4th final at Miami but has never lifted the trophy. The 24-year-old Russian took more than 2 hours to claim her struggling victory, ending with 50 winners and 46 unforced errors as she wept for her shot against her opponent. "I just kept fighting and just kept playing for another point," said Wysocki. Maria started off well, really well, and played aggressively. "She played some good tennis out there. I tried to do my best, and it just wasn't enough today. I was very close. This is tennis. One time you win, one time you lose."
Now, before we close today's bulletin of news analysis, let's have a recap of the main points. Spain budget cuts to a total 27 billion euros this year. France arrests 19 suspected Islamist militants in raids. Annan demands Syrian government begins ceasefire now. Mali group rebels seize desert town of Kidal. Adolf Hitler parents' tombstone in Austria removed. Bin Laden fathered 4 children while on the run. And there we end today's bulletin of news analysis. Be with us in the coming weeks to thank you